Hey guys, Will here. Welcome back to the channel. Now today's video is the start of an extremely exciting project. As you can see in front of me here, I've got a sea of BenQ display panels here. I've got EX3501R display panels. 3 of them that BenQ have very generously sent me for the purpose of a bit of a project that I'm going to be working on over the next probably month or so. So what we're going to be doing here is upgrading our sim rig, which if you've been following my videos, you would know currently has a 55-inch 4K curved panel installed. And we're going to be upgrading that to 3 curved 35-inch BenQ panels, which are the ones you see in front of me here, obviously. We're going to be testing it all out, seeing what the advantages, potential disadvantages are as well in the upgrade, as well as all the little complexities of, how to mount the displays adequately, how to drive them as well. Obviously, resolution being quite high is going to be a problem in terms of the types of PC we need to actually run all these monitors. So we're going to be covering that in detail, how it actually adds to the overall immersion of driving a simulator with these kinds of panels installed as well, and all those kinds of things. So there's a lot of details that we're going to cover throughout this little mini series, and I really want you guys to let me know in the comments below as well if there's any specific questions that you're wondering about, because I do want to make this as interactive as possible. I want to really answer your questions and really sort of explore this in a lot of detail, really answer a lot of those questions that people might have in the back of their minds, because this is a massive investment. Obviously, building a simulator rig, you can make a lot of mistakes, and I touched on in my previous video, I'm actually going to put together a video as well talking about 6 or 7 or maybe even up to 10 things depending on how many I can think of, but 6 or 7 things that I wish I'd known before I spent any money on building a simulator rig. So we're going to be covering all of that kind of stuff throughout this little mini series here, but the focus of this video is going to be an unboxing and review of just one of these monitors. So we'll move the other 2 aside. So I've been using one of these monitors as a desktop monitor now for about 2 weeks, using it for gaming, using it for day-to-day use in the office as well, just to get a really good sort of handle on the pros and cons of these monitors. So we're going to focus on just unboxing one, showing you all the features, showing you how it all works, showing you basically what you can expect if you purchase one of these monitors. Then we'll be moving across into actually setting things up as a triple monitor display in future videos as well. So stick around if you're interested. This video is going to be focusing on unboxing and a review of a single monitor. Okay, so before we get stuck into the unboxing and review, I just want to quickly run you through a bit of a cheat sheet that I've printed out for myself, covering off some of the key specs that you guys are obviously going to be interested in if you're looking at purchasing one of these monitors. So to start off with, it is a 21:9 aspect ratio UWQHD or ultra wide quad HD display panel. So it's not quite 4K resolution in terms of a single panel. Obviously, if we strap 3 of them together, it's about double the resolution in terms of total pixels of a 4K panel. But yeah, 3440 by 1440 resolution out of the box for these guys. And it's also a 100 Hertz panel as well. Now, one of the things that I wish that I'd realized when I first bought my current 38-inch display that you would have seen in some of my other videos is the importance of a high refresh rate. Now, that panel that I've been using for the last 2 years now is a 60 Hertz panel, whereas these are a 100 Hertz panel. And one of the things that I've really been amazed by is just the difference that 100 Hertz makes over 60 Hertz, just in day-to-day usage. How, just little things like the smoothness of moving windows around, and, in gameplay, obviously, as well, gameplay being more of a obvious one, but just in the day-to-day usage of, just a desktop computer, using Photoshop, editing videos, spreadsheets, Word, even emails and things like that, it really does make a big difference just in terms of the nicety of actually using a day-to-day computer. If you've got a fast computer, you want it to feel snappy and quick, and a 100 Hertz panel or higher really does make a significant difference, and more of a difference than I thought it would over a 60 Hertz panel. Obviously, we've heard our whole lives that your eyes can't really see more than about 25 to 30 frames per second, and that's really starting to be proven wrong through these newer panels that are coming out with higher refresh rates. I really would recommend, if you are looking at getting a display, definitely look at getting 100 Hertz or higher, because 60 Hertz really doesn't cut it in 2019, I don't believe, and I really have been surprised by the difference that it's made. So it's also an HDR panel as well. We'll cover that in more detail later on. Obviously, HDR being high dynamic range, which gives you a lot more realistic color reproduction in your display. The response time time and input lag is also really low on these panels, and we'll cover that a lot more in later detail in further videos when I start comparing it to the TV that I've currently got connected to my simulator rig. But yeah, the response time of these panels is 5 milliseconds. Obviously, there's a little bit of input lag that is introduced on top of that when you're looking at, you know, the picture engine and things like that. But being a proper PC monitor as opposed to a TV, the input lag is absolutely minimal. So we're looking at around about a 5 millisecond input lag there. Now, it is important to understand the difference between response time and input lag, and I will cover that in further videos for you guys as well. Now, another really strong selling feature of these panels is they do have a very, very slim bezel on either side, and we will take a look at that obviously in more detail once we've unboxed it. But yeah, having a really slim bezel is really important for when you're doing a triple monitor setup. So that makes this another really great option for those as well. We have HDMI, DisplayPort, USB 3.1, and of course USB-C support as well as audio. So we've got an audio output as well for headphones or a stereo system or something like that. We also have AMD's Freesync technology in these displays as well. And importantly, as of the most recent NVIDIA updates, that is also supported on NVIDIA graphics cards as well now. So that is a really, really strong feature and one that I've been really impressed with as well. And we will touch on that in a lot of detail in this video. Eye care technology, which adapts the color temperature and brightness to suit the ambient lighting conditions, as well as Brightness Intelligent Plus, which sort of ties in with that as well. So anyway, that is all of the key features at a top level that you're going to be interested in, and all the features that we're going to be covering in more detail in this video. So let's get one of these suckers up on the bench, get it unboxed, and show you exactly what you're getting for your money. Okay, so let's have a look at what we get in the massive box. It's actually not too heavy, but it is a big box, so just be aware of that. So I've obviously got a little installation guide here in terms of how to pull things out of the package without damaging anything, which is good. We've got our little bag here with our driver disc, as well as a user manual and Acrobat reader. Now, I don't know if anybody really even installs drivers these days, but I usually like to install them and just check them out. We've got a little quick start guide here as well, which will run us through the various different things which we'll find inside the box. So we've got USB-C, DP mini to DP, which is DisplayPort, HDMI, as well as a external power supply as well, power cord, a little backplate cover, and a little chart showing how we connect all of our various different peripherals and stuff like that. But we'll look at that in more detail once we've got the thing out of the box. We've got instructions on how to adjust height and tilt and all that kind of thing, as well as how to mount the actual stand onto a VESA mount and things like that, which is obviously going to be very, very important for us later on. Probably won't cover that in this video, because we're going to be mounting all of this onto our custom built 3D printed VESA mounts later on. But that's it for that. Nothing on the other side of that. So we'll put that aside here. We've got our mini DisplayPort to DisplayPort connector there. I'm not going to take these out of the bags right now because you know what they are. But it's a little bit interesting that they give you a mini to a full size. Obviously, I'm going to have to go out and buy some DisplayPort cables because I do want to use DisplayPort so I can use the FreeSync with my NVIDIA GPU, as well as get the maximum refresh rate at the maximum resolution as well. So a little bit interesting they give you a mini to a full size. It would have been nicer for me, at least, if they gave me a full size to full size. But I guess there's some sort of statistic around that which shows them that more people use mini to full size than do the other way around. But the input on the actual monitor itself is a full size. It's not a mini. So if you do have if you're using a desktop PC that has a full size, you will need to buy yourself a DisplayPort cable. We've got a USB-C cable there as well, which we can use to drive the monitor, as well as daisy chain additional peripherals and things like that. We've got our power cable, pretty self-explanatory there. It's just a 3-pin jug cord style, like that. We've got our external power supply or power brick, which we may as well take out of the bag because we're obviously going to need to use that. Just take it off like that for now. So it is, it's a switch mode power supply, so 100 volts to 240 volts. So it's the same power brick that you get regardless of where you are in the world. So 20 volts, 6 amps. So 6 amps is quite a lot of current. So it is a bit of a thirsty monitor, but obviously that needs to be a little bit overkill as well. And we've also got our HDMI cable there as well, which I believe is an HDMI. It doesn't say, but it would be a HDMI high-speed cable to support all the features of the monitor. And then we've got our little back cover here as well. I'll take that out of the bag quickly to show you. A little back cover which allows us to conceal all the plugs once we've plugged everything on the back, and I'll show you obviously that in more detail once we get things started. So let's lift out the polystyrene backing now. I can feel the hairs on my arm lifting up with the static electricity as I do that, and reveal the monitor itself. So very nicely packaged here. We've got lots of protective coating and everything. So we'll lift that out quickly. And I'll move the box aside and then we'll chuck it up on the bench and we can have a proper look at it. Okay, so let's start off by taking off the cover here to reveal another cover. That's a nice thick piece of padding there that protects the panel very, very adequately. So that's good to see from them. So we'll quickly pull this off as well in each corner. I'm going to be careful with this because I'm probably going to want to put it back on while I'm messing things around and installing it on the simulator rig later on. So I'm going to be careful with how we do this for now. Okay. Off. So there's a couple of layers there. You've got the thick piece and then you've got a protective coating as well there. So we'll set that aside. So now we're left with the panel itself. So I'll give it a quick spin for you. I don't have a rotisserie or anything like that I can put it on for you, but I'll spin it around quickly so you can have a good look at it, what it looks like. It glides pretty nicely on this table here. So you can see it's a really, really nice premium kind of design. Nice aluminium feet here. Very, very slick kind of backing here as well with the grey plastic and black contrast there. But it definitely looks like a high class piece of equipment. It's not got that plasticky cheap feel that you sometimes get with gaming branded monitors. But that said, it is a fully adequate gaming monitor within itself as well. So in terms of adjustability, which is something that's going to be important for a lot of people, we've got a -5° to +15° tilt on the base. We've also got 60mm of travel up and down on the mount as well. So that gives you a nice scope of adjustability to adjust it to whatever desk space you might be using it on. So it does stay in any position in the middle as well. It doesn't click into defined positions. You can put it absolutely anywhere you want on that 60mm range of travel there, and it will just stay there. And if you accidentally bump it a little bit, it's not going to move. You really do have to push down or push up on it quite hard to make it move. But obviously, if you try to lift the monitor up, it will adjust its position. So it's not so stiff that it can support the entire weight of the monitor. Not that that would matter, but that gives you a good idea of how that all functions. And it doesn't have any swivel on it, which I guess isn't really a problem. Most people are going to want to be looking at a monitor like this straight on anyway with the curve. While we're on the subject of curves, now would be a great time to show you the curvature of the monitor. So it's an 1800R curve on this monitor, which means 1800mm from the radius, which effectively means that the maximum viewing distance that you want to use for this monitor is about 1.8 meters, which should be absolutely perfect for sim racing. But we'll touch on this in a little bit more detail later on in the video when we've got it all set up on the bench. So in terms of input and output, we've got our DC jack here for our power brick. We've got a headphone output, which we can use to obviously drive headphones or an external amplifier or something like that. You can also use that to drive a butt kicker amplifier if you want to have a vibration game simulator or something like that connected. We'll obviously cover that in a little bit more detail later on once we've got this set up in our simulator rig. But you do have the option of that. You've got 2 HDMI inputs here as well. You've got your DisplayPort input. So then we've got 3 USB ports that you can see here. So we've got a USB-C port, which is what you would connect to your PC, as well as 2 super speed USB 3 ports as well. So you can effectively use this like a USB hub. You connect your USB-C to your PC and then connect your keyboard and mouse or whatever other peripherals you want that are compatible with USB 3 to the monitor. So that is it in terms of inputs and outputs. It's also worth noting that we do also have a Kensington lock port there as well if you want to add that additional security. Now, one thing that I want to touch on quickly here before we go any further is the monitor mounting bracket, simply because this is something that I know a lot of people have been put off by on BenQ monitors in general, because it's not a standard size mount. Anybody that's wanting to wall mount one of these has been running into problems. Now, BenQ did used to sell an official VESA adapter plate, which looked like this. Now, this was the last one that was available in the entire world as far as I'm aware. This is what they told me when we ordered these monitors for the channel. So this is the very last one in existence. The company that was actually manufacturing these for BenQ went out of business, so they're no longer made. But what they did do is they very, very kindly put the CAD files for those up available on the internet, and I'll supply the link for you in the description below. So this meant that you could make your own mounts off those CAD files. So I did a little bit more digging and I found that somebody has actually already designed a 3D printable mount for these screens. Now, I don't know exactly how strong it's going to be and whether I'm going to be able to use it long term, but I have actually printed one off. I used 80% infill for the printing to make sure it's nice and strong. 100% we found that we had problems with shrinkage, so we used 80% infill. Now, I'm not going to endorse this as a product because I don't know that it's going to be strong enough to mount the monitors. I do suggest that you do your own research, so to speak, but the CAD files are available there, so you can very easily make a mount yourself or have a manufacturer make one. And I think there's definitely an opportunity there for somebody to jump into the market and produce either 3D printed or CAD printed or, you know, CNC milled or something like that mounts for these things, because they don't actually offer one officially in their store anymore. But what basically you need to do, and I'll only touch on this quickly now, is you pop this out with a plastic pry tool. The panel comes off very, very easily, and you can see behind there are 4 screws, 2 on either side, and that lines up very neatly with the replacement VESA mount like that, or in the case of the 3D printed one, it would go on like that. So you just undo the 4 screws, the new ones go in, and then you can mount that on your VESA wall mount. So we'll go into a lot more detail about this when we mount it up on the monitor stands themselves, but I just wanted to quickly touch on that for those of you who might be concerned about buying one of these. There are solutions available. They're not necessarily pretty, but they are definitely workable, and I'm not concerned about mounting this on my rig at all. I think it's all going to work out fine. So if you've ever seen a wall mounting bracket for a TV, it usually looks something like that. The TV obviously screws onto the mount here, and then this portion hangs on the wall on the mounting bracket that actually bolts to the wall. So it'll look generally something like that. Obviously, you can't bolt that directly to this panel. So what you can do is you can do a little bit of adaptation to make this bolt directly onto that. So my plan basically is I've got 2 of these with just some brackets that I purchased from the local hardware store for I think $2.50 each. Those are just bolted on, and the beauty of these is that they're 10mm spacing between each hole. So effectively all we're going to be doing is, and we'll do it this way so you can see, put it like that. One of these goes on either side, 10mm spacing, nice and strong, and that gives us our wall mount. So we're going to be doing one of those with the BenQ panel here, which you can no longer buy, and then one for each of our 3D printed ones as well. So it should be pretty straightforward, and obviously I'm going to cover that in a lot more detail when we mount the panels up on our next level racing monitor stand. But I just wanted to quickly run you guys through that now, just in case you're wanting to wall mount one of these, not necessarily interested in the sim racing side of things, but wanting to know how you can mount one of these to your wall. It is relatively simple. You just need to do a little bit of fiddling around with brackets and things like that, but it's definitely possible. Just wanted to show you that quickly now. So looking at the panel from the front, it's a really nice clean design. We'll quickly pull this little piece off as well. That is the optical sensor for the brightness adjustment and color temperature adjustment, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. So it's got this little cutout bit here that sort of pokes out. That's, you know, it looks nice and clean. It doesn't look intrusive or anything like that. It actually looks kind of interesting and kind of futuristic, which is cool. But otherwise, a very, very clean panel. Now you've got a sort of single piece of material here which runs right across the entire front of the panel, right up to the very edge. So they call it an edge-to-edge display. Now there is a very slight lip on the side of the image itself. So you've got probably maybe a total of 6 or 7mm between where the image actually ends and the edge of the screen, which is very impressive. We'll have a closer look at that later on once we're actually got it hooked up to the PC. So the image doesn't go all the way to the very edge, but you've only got a very, very slim amount there of maybe 5 or 6 or 7mm at most between the edge of the display and the physical side of the screen itself. So anyway, let's go plug it in and we'll have a look at how it performs. Okay, so we've got everything set up on the desk. There was no problems at all in terms of setup. We just plugged in the DisplayPort straight into my PC with one of the DisplayPort cables that I already had kicking around. Just noting again that if you do have a PC that only has a full-size DisplayPort, you will need to purchase an additional cable, or a cable if you don't already have one, to plug into the monitor, seeing as the cable that comes with the monitor is a mini to full-size DisplayPort and the port on the monitor is a full-size. But just bear that in mind, you may need to purchase a DisplayPort cable to connect it up to your desktop PC. But anyway, everything's all fired up. There's no dead pixels, anything like that. And this is, as you see it, completely out of the box. No calibration. Because we're running the sRGB color profile, I don't expect that you need to really calibrate this monitor anyway. But what I wanted to take you through now is showing you the menu system and all the options that are in there, or the ones that are of note anyway, that are sort of standout features and things like that, things that you might need to actually fiddle around with. And then what we'll do is we'll go through, actually play some games, show you how it performs, show you what the ghosting is like, have a look at G-Sync on and off. And I think we'll probably wrap it up at that for this video. So let's get stuck into the menu to begin with. So we'll bring up the menu quickly now. We've got a row of buttons underneath here with little marks next to them on the front of the panel, so it's nice and easy to find what's what. So we just simply press the menu button and we're presented with the menu. Now I apologize that it's a little bit kind of distorted in the video. That's the moire effect, which is unfortunately impossible to avoid on a panel like this, recording with a camera. I can't obviously record the output of the screen because this is overlaid after the HDMI or the DisplayPort signal. So Nothing we can do about that, so you'll have to bear with me, unfortunately, but we'll bring up the menu quickly now. So we've got a nice easy UI here with up, down, left, right, cancel, and those options will change depending on what the option is there. You just adjust it with the corresponding button. So bring it up again, it does time out after a little while. I need to stop talking so much. So we go down, we've got display with picture-in-picture and input. That's pretty straightforward. You can just select whether you want to have picture-in-picture or picture beside picture, as well as your input modes. Picture options here, so we move across, we've got a brightness adjustment, contrast adjustment, sharpness, gamma adjustment between 5 different levels, color temperature between normal, bluish, reddish, and user defined. So we've kind of tweaked that at the moment to suit the space that we're in. Now we will touch a little bit on color adjustment later on, because that is one of the cool features of this screen, is its ability to adjust color temperature and brightness based on ambient conditions. So we'll jump down quickly to AMA, which is a really interesting feature by BenQ. It stands for Advanced Motion Acceleration, and effectively what it's doing is it's overvolting the pixels on the screen itself in order to increase their response time very slightly. So obviously input lag is comprised of the time it actually takes your PC to process the input, the monitors to then process the image, and then the pixels to actually react to that signal. So what this does is it reduces the response time of the pixels themselves, which does reduce the input lag very, very slightly. So it's really cool that they include features like that in there. And we can choose here between off, which obviously means off, high, and premium. So I've just got it set to premium. I don't really see any reason not to, seeing as that theoretically would be the fastest response time. And there's no warnings in the manual or anything like that about it reducing the lifetime of the screen or anything like that. So that is all good. We'll quickly jump across again now, and we'll move down to advanced picture settings. Here you can see we've got picture mode, standard, HDR, sRGB, photo, gamer 1, gamer 2, and so forth. Those are your various different color profiles. I generally like to leave this set to sRGB, and then we can adjust our brightness and things from there. So we'll leave that set to sRGB for now. I'm actually not a big fan of HDR myself, but we will test that out a little bit later on. Moving down now, color vibrance and low light have been set to off because we've got the sRGB profile selected. If we move back up to standard, you should see that those enable again. There you go there. So we can adjust those to our own preference. But what we'll do for now is we'll adjust that back to our sRGB profile. So sRGB on. So moving down to super resolution now, that is a setting which allows us to adjust for lower resolution images or lower resolution signals and things like that, which don't necessarily match the native resolution of the screen. We're going to be running it at its native resolution, but the image that we've actually got on the screen now isn't the native resolution of the screen. It's a slightly lower resolution image. And if we adjust that value up and down, you won't be able to see it in the video, but it does actually slightly increase the sharpness on that image. So it's kind of like it's almost like an interpolation thing. It makes the image a little bit sharper where you're not running at the native resolution of the panel, or you're looking at an image which is lower resolution than the native resolution of the panel. So jump back out of that again. We can skim over dynamic contrast and overscan for now. They're not really relevant to the context of this video. Display mode, so you can adjust your aspect ratio here. Obviously we don't need to do that, and we'll just quickly adjust back into our standard profile again so we can enable some of those other options. We'll go down here and you can see we've got our BI plus and our adjust by duration. So BI plus is our intelligent brightness adjustment, and we can set that to on or off. So we'll set that to on for now, just so we can see it, and you can see the screen just brightened up then a whole lot. So we'll go down to our light meter. We can turn our light meter on or off. And we can also adjust our sensor sensitivity here as well. That obviously means the amount that it will adjust the brightness based off the ambient light. So that's it for advanced there. We won't go into any more detail on that for the moment. Audio, obviously we can adjust the volume and mute as well. So that's a handy feature to have. And then jumping down to system, we've got a few different settings here regarding the on-screen display language, custom keys that you can use to jump to specific settings that you want to adjust frequently. DDC adjustment there, USB configuration as well, so we can choose whether we want our USB-C connection to run at wide QHD at 100 Hz with USB 2 or 60 Hz at USB 3.1. Obviously there's a bandwidth limitation there, so you have to choose between the two. DisplayPort auto switch, HDMI auto switch, so if there's a signal detected, it'll automatically switch to the input. USB-C auto switch, automatic power off. Resolution notice, so it'll pop up and tell you the resolution that it's running at. Panel information there that shows you what its resolution it's currently running at, all sorts of stats like that. DisplayPort version 1.1 or 1.4, and then reset all. So that is pretty much it for the menu. I don't think we need to go into any more detail there. So now let's actually jump in. We'll play some games and see how it performs in terms of ghosting and stuff like that. Okay, so in Hitman 2, now the reason I've chosen this game is because It's got lots of visual detail. It's really, really nice and sharp, and you know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of movement. There's a lot of different contrasting objects and stuff like that. Very, very visually strong game. And we also have the option of enabling HDR in this game as well. We'll also be able to test out FreeSync with our NVIDIA graphics card in this game as well. So let's start the mission. We're just going to do it in casual difficulty because we're not actually trying to play the game or achieve anything here. We're just want to muck around with visuals and things like that. And I'll let you watch the intro to the mission so you can see what the detail looks like. Obviously, you know, recording it off the screen with a camera is never going to give you a real good impression. But once it's finished playing, I'll talk you through it as well.
Race is on its last day, and it is down to the wire. Thousands of eager fans are gathered for the final laps of this unexpectedly close race. Sierra Knox is expertly piloting her red Kronstadt car. Her father, Robert Knox, roams the nearby expo building where Kronstadt is showcasing its new prototype car. The Kronstadt RK Mark III has seen fierce competition from the Chinese Kowloon Heavy Industries' new racer. Moses Lee, CEO of Kowloon, has taken a dominant lead and looks invincible. Sierra Knox will need to risk it all if she wants to win for the third year in a row. The stakes are as high as they can get.
Alright, so the first thing I notice playing games on this, and this has been my experience over the last couple of weeks, is that the resolution is perfect for a screen of this size. 35 inches, 3440 by 1440 resolution. You can't see the individual pixels. I'm sitting probably a little less than a meter away from the screen here as I'm talking to you now. I can't see any individual pixels, and it's really, really clean and tidy. So the thing you'll notice as well is just moving around, very, very, very slick. This is obviously a 1080 Ti. Graphics are cranked up all the way, but there's no glitching. There's no problems there at all in terms of resolution. It's very, very, very clean. Go down underground as well, see what it looks like in lower light. So yeah, the darks look really nice and dark. There's no problems with ghosting or shadowing, funny greys or anything like that. You can see when he sort of goes into a shadow, there's no massive problem with contrast ratio or anything like that. It's very, very, very clean and tidy. You can see the texture. You probably won't be able to see it on the camera, but the texture on the back of his arm, you can see the veins, and the transition between light and dark is really clean. Sometimes on cheaper monitors you get this horrible kind of line where there's a massive difference between dark grey and black, but we're not having that problem at all with this panel. You can see also here on the right hand side, the transition between black and dark grey is really, really smooth in terms of the gradient. So very, very, very nice. You go back up into light again as well. Looking up at the sun. We don't have any problems with funny bright areas or anything like that. Very, very clean. The motion is absolutely crystal smooth. The reaction time is absolutely instant to the mouse as well. I mean, you're not going to be able to see it on camera, but absolutely no input lag that's discernible whatsoever. So very, very impressive. We'll just jump inside as well if it'll let us. He's probably going to want to frisk me, I'd imagine. Oh no. Just go over into this dark area again as well. So very, very, very clean. And like you see on the lights up here as well, there's only very, very, very minimal ghosting when we're moving around, and that's probably more to do with the graphics card than it is the monitor anyway. But you can see there's a little bit of ghosting there. Probably show up a little bit more on the camera than it is in real life, I'd imagine. But yeah, definitely nothing to worry about at all. In fact, that might even just be motion blur. Let's have a look in the settings quickly, see if I've got motion blur turned on. Graphics. Motion blur. Hi. Yeah, that'd probably do it. Let's switch that off. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. So that's not actually happening. So it wasn't the monitor, it was just me being an idiot. But even here, like here's a good spot. You can see the brightness there. contrasting against the darkness here, but it's not flaring out at all. You can still see all the detail. Very, very, very nice. Obviously, we've got our ambient lighting settings like ambient occlusion and stuff like that, flaring and everything enabled as well. So that sort of flaring effect that we get there is actually a graphical thing because that's what you'd see in real life, but you're not losing any detail in the wall behind, and the dark side of the screen is still very, very nice and dark. So let's quickly go in now and we'll switch off G-Sync. I don't know whether we'll need to reload the game to do this, but we'll quickly jump out, go to our NVIDIA control panel here. You can see here, set up G-Sync, so it's detected that it's a G-Sync monitor straight away. We'll switch it off and apply. And the monitor will reconnect itself because it does redetect the monitor when you do this. So hopefully it doesn't kill the game on us, but we'll see. There we go, back on. Hasn't killed the game. Go back in again, and you can see there's a little bit of tearing when we move very, 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 very quickly. You get a little bit of a tearing effect. It kind of judders a bit as it moves across. You can see a little bit of jumpiness there as I move the mouse. We're in a situation here where we've got quite a lot of shadows and reflections and things, so it is actually affecting the frame rate quite significantly. The frame rate is dropping a little bit here. I can see on my little screen down here we're running at around sort of 60 frames a second in here with everything cranked up. If I was to crank down the visuals quickly, just going to graphics quickly here, VSync is definitely off there, so we'll turn down our level of detail to low. Actually, we want to crank it up to ultra and see what difference that makes first. So yeah, there's definitely a lot more sort of tearing and juddering and stuff going on there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you can see when I scroll across here, there's a distinct sort of tear that's going on when I do that. Crank the graphics back down again so we get a higher frame rate. So ultra down to low, texture quality down to low. And instantly that's a lot smoother, which tells us obviously as the frame rate drops, we're getting that tearing effect that's going on. So we'll switch G-Sync back on again, turn those settings back up. So level of detail, we'll go ultra for everything, or as high as we can go for everything. And then we'll turn G-Sync back on. Apply, and back into the game, and way, way, way smoother. And like that's just, it's amazing how much difference that makes. Honestly, like people that have been not running G-Sync monitors, have been waiting for some sort of support like this. It's definitely, I wouldn't say it's an absolute game changer, but it definitely makes a huge difference being able to enable G-Sync on a FreeSync compatible monitor. So I would absolutely say like there's no weird glitches or anything like that. We'll just jump back outside again quickly and look up at the sun again. I know that sometimes we can have some issues with really, really bright sources of light. With G-Sync it can play some funny games, yeah, looking here. But no, there's no aberrations or glitches or funny artifacts or anything like that. Everything seems to be working absolutely perfectly. So I can definitely say to you unequivocally that using this FreeSync monitor with G-Sync definitely makes a difference and definitely works without any problems that we've seen from some other monitors in the past. Alright, so we're back in now with HDR enabled. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up because the camera obviously has a limited color space as well, but it definitely looks a lot more vibrant now. The reds are a lot redder, the transition of light has a lot more kind of contrast in it. You're not getting the flare out as much as you did before. Okay, so HDR enabled definitely. I don't know whether the camera will pick it up because obviously the camera has a limited color space, but there's definitely more detail in the sky. The transition between, when you look at the bright sun, you see more detail in the sky around it. If the cloud looks more detailed, colors on people's shirts and things like that will look more detailed as well. So the yellow there is really, really nice and vibrant, more so than it was before. So that is a tick for HDR in my book. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this one because it's already been a long video and I feel like we've pretty much covered everything that we need to for the scope of this one. But look, definitely I'll give you more impressions as I've spent more time with this, but I absolutely cannot wait to get this rigged up with the other two on my simulator rig, start playing some racing games and see how it all goes. Okay guys, so that is my review of the BenQ EX3501R monitor, and as you can see from the video, I'm really impressed with this screen, and I absolutely cannot wait to get it mounted on my simulator rig and test it out properly. So guys, the next video we're probably going to be looking at covering the actual installation onto my rig. As you can see beside me here, I've got a bit of a bracket that I've built up, so we'll be testing that out as well in the next video, getting it all mounted, showing you all the little tips and tricks and traps and things like that to get them mounted on your simulator rig. So stick around for that. Obviously then we'll be, you know, setting it all up, showing you how cabling works, testing out whether we're actually able to even drive these things off my 1080 Ti or whether we're going to need to upgrade to a 2080 Ti. Lots of exciting content to come. And as I mentioned at the start of the video as well, if you do have any questions at all about these monitors, mounting them in a simulator rig or anything like that, do let me know in the comments below, and I'll be absolutely sure to include as many as I possibly can in the upcoming videos. So make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell as well so you don't miss the next videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.